And joining us now on Sports Plus is Mark McGwire. Mark, a couple of weeks ago, Tony Gwynn was in town, and we were talking to him. Great hitter, future Hall of Famer. And we said, who's a hitter you like to watch? And he sort of paused, and he looked out on the field, and he pointed to you. And he said, the reason is because you're a home run hitter with a contact hitter's mentality. Would you agree with that?
Well, I guess so. I try to simplify it like, you know, a contact hitter. You know, I was taught at a young age that hitting's almost like playing pepper. You got to see the ball and hit it, you know. And we used to do that in college a lot. Our coach would have us play pepper for like 20 minutes. And what it does is just, it makes you have good hand-eye coordination, you know, and move the bat inside, outside, and not having the ability to really hit the ball hard, hit it soft right back at the guy. So I've never heard it that way, but I guess when you get complimented by one of the best, you have to take it.
When you were in high school and even recruited to go to college, you were a pitcher.
Right. That's all I wanted to do.
Really?
Yeah, that's all I wanted to do.
What kind of pitcher were you?
Basically a fastball changeup pitcher. I still think today that if I'd be a pitcher today, if Marcel Latchman, the pitching coach, and used to be the manager of the California Angels, right, or Anaheim Angels now, he was a pitching coach at USC and recruited me there. The first day that we had our first meeting as a baseball team, he stands up in front of the team and says that I'm taking a position to be the roving pitching instructor for the, at the time, California Angels, and he left. And so I really believe that if he would have stayed there, that I'd probably be a pitcher today, because I went there because of him, and he was going to teach me how to throw either a split finger or a breaking ball. And, you know, I had a pretty good fastball, but you know, it's just one of those things happen for a reason.
Did you hear Vermeil the other day? He said, you know, if you were available, he would like to have you as the first-round draft choice. And your brother, of course, played football. Was football ever a...
No, I never liked it. I just didn't think it was worth it for all that practice during the summer when I loved summer vacation. You know, 2-a-days, hell week, whatever they went through, all that practice for one game on a Friday night. I just didn't think it was worth it. Now, I'd rather play basketball or go golf or hang out with my buddies. So I never played it.
You hit 49 home runs your rookie year. You could have gone for 50, right, but you missed the final game.
Right.
Tell me that story.
That's easy. I mean, my wife at the time was expecting, and she was overdue, and we were in Chicago, and I got a call on Sunday morning. I think it was like around 4 o'clock in the morning, and her father said that she's at the hospital, she's in labor, and I called Tony up. I said, hey, I got to get out of here. I said, he goes, well, you know, what about trying for 50? And I said, listen, I said, I'll have another chance to hit 50. You're never going to have another chance to have a first child. You know, and that was an easy thing to do. I mean, see, that's the thing. It's when you simplify things, this is just a game. It's not life or death. And I think because of what I did, I think that is probably one of the biggest reasons why my son and I are so close, even though that we don't live together all the time. It's just, we have such a connection. It's unbelievable.
Do you think about records? I mean, you're mentioned in the same breath now with Babe Ruth. They talk about the Roger Maris chase.
It's amazing.
Do you even think about stuff like that?
It's very flattering. I mean, for a guy that has exceeded anything he's ever expected himself in the game of baseball, to have his name inside Babe Ruth and Maris and Mantle, and God, it sort of blows you away. You know, you almost I want to put myself back in when they played and sort of play against them and see. But you know what? Hopefully someday they're going to be talking about myself and Griffey, you know, to some young kid 30, 40 years from now. You know, that would be a thrill.
What finally made you think, you know, it's time for a change of scenery? Was it just a contract situation, or do you think, you know?
No, I don't think it was really a contract situation. I think it was just a situation in Oakland. I mean, I had a fantastic 11 years there, but it just got to the point where I needed a change. I think everybody needs a change in their life, and it wasn't easy to leave, but I knew I had to make a move. You know, I've said time and time again that I would go to the ballpark and there was just no energy there.
And when you came here, everybody thought you'd be here for a couple of months, and then he's going to go. He'll play in Southern California. but that didn't happen. Did you think the same thing? Did you think?
Well, I came here with an open mind. You know, and let's face it, if Walt Jocketty and Tony La Russa weren't here, I don't think the St. Louis Cardinals would have traded for me. Right. I mean, they knew who I was. You know, Walt, one of the first guys I did a contract with when I signed out of SC when he was with Oakland. Tony was my first manager. They knew what I was as a person, as a player. They knew if they got me here and try to win me over, you know, with the fans, the city, and the team, that they'd have a really good shot at doing it, and they did it. It worked, and it just took me off guard. But I couldn't be any happier. I mean, it's just been exciting. How can you not want to come to this ballpark and play every day? I mean, it's just
mentioned the energy. Do you
well,
feel
the energy. Oh my, it's just incredible. How can you not? I mean, it's just. I mean, there's energy in other ballparks, but this is on a different level. And I've really learned how to use it to your advantage.
The day that you signed your contract to stay here, you had the press conference. You donated $1 million a year. Will be to your foundation for abused children, and you couldn't keep it together at that news conference. What was it that struck such a chord for you?
Well, I just think it's just sad that what children are going through today. There's so many young children that are hurt out there that are scared to stand up and talk. I've had some friends that over the past couple of years have opened up to me. They tell me that they've been abused in one way or another. And a friend of mine that helped me out, that she was working at a sexual abuse center last year, and I went there and I saw it and I saw how things worked, and it was just one of those things that just fell into place. And I just think when I broke down, I just think it was just, you know, the love of children, because there's so many people. I mean, so many kids are hurt out there, and by no means was I abused by any chance. But the thing is just if I can make a stance and try to help, if people see me and they say, Mark McGwire standing up for this, and if some young children in school is being abused by somebody, for them to stand up and say, hey, there's something happening to me right now. I mean, it's just going to make the world a better place. It's going to make that child a better person, because there's so many children today growing up to become teenagers, young adults. They can't be the people they want to be because of the scars they have.
And then you go out that night and you hammer one.
Yeah.
You have a flair for the dramatic?
Jeez, I don't know. I was floating that night. Actually, I went to Tony because I was so worn out that night. I said, Tony, I don't know if I can play today. I said, I'm mentally, physically burnt out. I said, everything that's been going on, it's just rush. He says, well, I think if I don't play today, I think I'll probably be fired. So I played, and I remember getting into the box, and you know, you hear the fans applauding, and I remember getting in the box, and it was ball one, ball two, and I was like sort of jumping at the ball, and I said, you know, I got to settle down here, okay, just. And as I glanced back, I saw the fans are on their feet. It's a standing ovation. I mean, we're in the second pitch in the sequence. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And it was strike one, then ball three, and then I hit the home run. And to this day, usually I can vision me hitting that ball, but to this day I can't vision it. It was almost like I was floating. And to this day, it's by far the best thing I've done in the game of baseball.
Mark, they give you a standing ovation every time you come up.
Yeah, but it was like one of the first times it's ever happened.
That must be, I mean, you must feel incredibly welcome. Without a doubt.
How can you not?
Your son was here the other night. You hit 3 home runs. Tell me that Reggie Jackson story about playing with him your first year, what he said to you.
Well, he was, you know, Reggie, I played with him my rookie year, and then he lives in Orange County, same with me. And so after my rookie year, I used to hang out with him down at his warehouse full of cars. So it was pretty neat when you're a young kid seeing all these fancy cars. And you know, and at that time, my wife at the time had, you know, we had Matthew, and you know, he was telling me, he says, you know, Mark, I think it's great that you've had a son, and he says, it's one thing I really regret, you know, playing all these years a game of baseball, hitting 500+ home runs. doing what he's done, World Series MVP, World Series champions, and I never have a son or daughter watch me play. You know, I sat back and I thought about that, and I just said, now I get to. And the other night, it was just, I mean, how much more special can it be?
What was the ride home like?
Yeah, you know, he's really low key. He's like me. You know, I asked him if he was excited, and he says, yeah. You know, he just, and I sort of wanted him to come closer to home plate, but he sort of hung out there in the grass area. And when I gave him the high five, I think he was sort of embarrassed, and he's running. It was so cute. You know, at my first at bat when I walked, I was running down, taking my gloves off and my shin guard. And I turned around, he was there, and I was like, oh my God, it just got to my heart, because it's just, I mean, it's just the cutest thing in the world to see his smiling face.
If we talk to your teammates, if we talk to your old high school coach, your college coach, they say, great ball player, better person. Is that how you'd like to be remembered? Yeah, I mean, so many things have happened, you know, with athletics and players today in all sports. And if I'm an example for other athletes to lead by, I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, I'm realistic, I'm up front with people. You know, I think I do the right things. By no means am I an angel. You know, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but the one thing I've done, I've learned from them. A lot of people make mistakes, but they never learn from them. A good person's a good thing. You know, I'm glad to have that title next to me. And I'm glad I have a title that I'm a good baseball player. So yes, I would love to retire and have people talk about that. Mark, thank you very much.
All right, you got it.
That's Mark McGwire, and we'll be right back.
Is it fair? Is it fair? Yes, it is. Into center field. It's a 3-home run night for Big Mac.
In less than 4 full months as a Cardinal, he has rocked the St. Louis baseball world.
He's a phenomenon that we might never see again here.
Well, I've never seen anything like it.
He's like Paul Bunyan came out of the North Woods.
At 6'5", 250 pounds with 20-inch biceps, he is indeed Paul Bunyan-esque. But this mountain of a man isn't from the North Woods. He's from Southern California, growing up in Claremont and playing his high school ball on this field in Laverne, a suburb of Los Angeles.
A pretty good boy, pretty good kid, a great person.
Tom Carroll is the athletic director and associate baseball coach at Damien High School, where McGwire was more interested in strikeouts than he was home runs.
When you were in high school, and even recruited to go to college, you were a pitcher.
Right. That's all I wanted to do.
And like many kids, when McGwire was here at Damien, he played more than one sport. He also excelled at golf and basketball.
Basketball was probably my first sport I really thought that I could probably go somewhere in. But then I learned that I didn't have great jumping ability.
So McGwire concentrated on baseball. He was drafted by the Expos out of high school, but chose instead to attend USC as a pitcher.
He had a good loose delivery, very, very smooth delivery, and he really threw with velocity.
Rod Dado was the longtime USC head coach, recently named by one publication the College Coach of the Century. He finally made McGwire an everyday player after a successful summer of hitting in an Alaskan summer league.
That's all I did up there. I just hit. I ended up winning the batting title. And then came back to school my sophomore year and fought Rod Dado on, I just want to hit, but he says, son, you can do both.
In my mind, we knew we'd have to see him as an everyday player, because you don't have fellas that come along and can swing the bat with the power that he does.
McGwire ended up setting the Pac-10 record for home runs, and Dado made him the starting first baseman on the 1984 U.S. Olympic team. Back at Damien High, McGwire is still often the topic of discussion, even though these players never knew him.
It just makes me realize that he went to this school and I go here, so maybe I could end up where he is someday.
Knowing he was just like in our place at one time, same
field, same everything. Just
Makes you think you can do it?
yeah.
If I today would and had a boy and know what I know about Mark McGwire, I would say there's the guy to pattern your life after. And then it's
You emotional because
well, because I knew him as a kid, and I really, whether he knows this or not, I get attached to guys that are good people.
fans arrive early just to watch batting practice.
He's awesome.
Even opposing players watch closely.
You marvel at stuff like that.
And his teammates are still in awe.
We'll make sure that during BP that we're all in the outfield.
Before the games and during them, it seems Mark McGwire has created more fireworks than fair St. Louis. McGwire has been creating fireworks ever since his rookie year with the A's. He was thinner back in 1987, but he had some bulky statistics. 49 homers is still a Major League rookie record. He could have gone for 50, but the night before the final game, he called manager Tony La Russa to tell him his wife was in labor.
I said, I'll have another chance to hit 50. You're never going to have another chance to have a first child. You know, and that was an easy thing to do.
In just his second season here in the Bay Area, McGwire helped lead the A's to the World Series. That was 1988. They were back again in 1989 and 1990. McGwire had been in the major leagues for 4 full seasons and had 1 World Championship and 2 American League pennants.
And the Oakland A's have won the American League pennant.
I think back at that time, you don't really realize what you're going through. And I wish I can go through that now because I can understand it.
That's why. See you later, number 5.
But McGwire says he can't even begin to understand the love St. Louis has shown him ever since he was traded here last July. He signed a 3-year contract in September that guarantees him $30 million. And then won even more fans when at the news conference to announce his new deal, McGwire said he was establishing a foundation to dispense $1 million a year to help abused and neglected children.
Let's just say that children have a special heart, a special place in my heart. And
by no means was I abused by any chance, but the thing is just if I can make a stance and try to help, if people see me and they say, Mark McGwire standing up for this, and if some young children in school is being abused by somebody, for them to stand up and say, hey, there's something happening to me right now. I mean, it's just going to make the world a better place.
And then, as if it were for all those kids, McGwire went out that night and hit the longest recorded home run in Busch Stadium history.
High fly ball, left center.
It was almost like I was floating. And to this day, it's by far the best thing I've done in the game of baseball.
But baseball isn't the most important thing in McGwire's life. 11-year-old Matthew McGwire is. As a divorced father, McGwire cherishes every moment with his son, who lives full-time with his mother in California. And Dad recently showed a flair for the dramatic again. In Matthew's first game as a Cardinal bat boy, Dad went out and hit 3 home runs.
The 2-0. Into center field. It's a 3-home run night for Big Mac.
What was the ride home like?
Yeah, you know, he's really low-key. He's like me, you know. I asked him if he was excited, and he says, yeah. You know, he just, and I sort of wanted him to come closer to home plate, but he sort of hung out there in the grass area. And when I gave him the high five, I think he was sort of embarrassed, and he's running. It was so cute.
It seems it doesn't matter who you talk to. His high school coach, his college coach, or now the fans of St. Louis who think they know him. The consensus about Mark McGwire seems to be great ball player, better person. And it's no surprise that McGwire is starting to feel at home in St. Louis.
They give you a standing ovation every time you come up. I mean, you must feel incredibly welcome.
Without a doubt. How can you not?